I grew up believing that family meant loyalty and support. Our hardware store wasn't just a business. It was our legacy passed down through 3 generations. I trusted my parents completely until they sold our family store to give my brother Travis $120,000 for his startup. I never imagined they would betray me twice by trying to take over the company I built from scratch after they lost everything. Life teaches harsh lessons about trust, even with those closest to you. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're viewing from. Hit subscribe, and stick around to hear how I rebuilt my life after losing everything. The smell of fresh-cut wood and metal always reminds me of my childhood. Our family hardware store sat on the corner of Main and Elm in our small town outside Boston, a fixture in the community since my grandfather opened it in 1952. The faded sign reading Thompson Hardware had weathered decades of New England seasons, just like our family had weathered the ups and downs of small business ownership. I practically grew up in that store, sweeping floors at age 8, stocking shelves by 12, and helping customers find exactly what they needed by 15. My father, Robert Thompson, was a practical man who believed in learning by doing. Books can teach you theory, Franklin, but your hands teach you truth, he would say, as he showed me how to cut a perfect length of chain or mix paint to match a customer sample. My mother, Sarah, handled the books with meticulous precision. She could tell you the profit margin on any item in the store and knew exactly which vendors offered the best terms. Together, my parents made a perfect team, combining practical knowledge with business sense. Our store wasn't fancy, but it was essential to the community. Contractors knew they could count on our expertise weekend. DIYers came for honest advice, and everyone appreciated that we remembered their names and projects. We weren't just selling hammers and nails. We were helping build homes, fix problems, and create memories. Unlike my brother Travis, I never felt the pull to leave our small town. After high school, while Travis headed to an expensive business school in Chicago, I stayed to learn the family business. I didn't need a fancy degree to understand what made our store work. Instead, I focused on practical improvements, computerizing our inventory system, creating a basic website for the store, and expanding our contractor services. My father appreciated these changes, even if he pretended to grumble about newfangled technology. My mother was more openly supportive, recognizing how these updates improved our bottom line. The store was doing well, not making us rich, but providing a comfortable living and, more importantly, a sense of purpose and community connection. Travis would come home during breaks full of big ideas and business jargon. The future is in scalable digital solutions, not brick-and-mortar retail, he would announce at dinner as if reading from one of his textbooks. I would bite my tongue, noticing how our parents nodded at his words with reverent attention. I never resented their pride in Travis. Getting a college education was a big deal in our family, but sometimes I wondered if they valued his theoretical knowledge over my practical contributions. Still, I believed we would all work together, eventually bringing different strengths to expand the family business. When Travis graduated with his business degree, our parents threw a huge party at the local community center. Everyone came to celebrate, and my parents beamed with pride as Travis charmed the guests with stories of his college achievements and future plans. And now Travis announced, raising his glass, "I'm excited to bring everything I've learned back home to take the Thompson family business to the next level." Our parents applauded loudest, while I nodded supportively. Despite our differences, I genuinely looked forward to working with my brother. His education combined with my experience could make something special, I thought. We could honor our family legacy while building something bigger together. That night, as guests were leaving, Travis pulled me aside. "I've got huge plans, Franklin," he said, his eyes bright with ambition. "We're going to transform everything. The hardware store is just the beginning." I smiled and clinked my beer bottle against his glass. "Looking forward to it," I said, choosing to ignore the slight implication that our family store needed transforming. I was willing to consider changes, but I also knew the value of what we had built. Little did I know that his return wasn't about building on our foundation, but rather demolishing it completely to fuel his own ambitions. The celebration that night marked the beginning of the end for Thompson Hardware and for my relationship with my family as I had known it. 3 weeks after Travis returned home, he called a family meeting in our living room. Our parents sat expectantly on the couch while I took my usual armchair by the window. Travis stood before us with his laptop, ready to deliver what seemed like a rehearsed presentation. The future of retail is personalized digital experiences. Travis began clicking through professional slides that showed colorful graphs and stock photos of happy shoppers using smartphones. My startup ShopSmart will revolutionize how people discover and purchase products through a custom algorithm that learns consumer preferences. For the next 40 minutes, he outlined his vision for an app that would supposedly transform shopping through personalized recommendations. He used terms like disruptive technology, first-mover advantage, and exponential growth potential. Our parents nodded along, clearly impressed, though I doubted they understood half the jargon. I listened carefully, trying to find substance beneath the flashy presentation. The idea wasn't terrible, but it seemed derivative of a dozen existing apps. More concerning was his financial projection, which predicted breaking even within 6 months and millionaire status within 2 years. I need initial capital of $120,000 to hire developers, secure server infrastructure, and fund our marketing launch, Travis concluded confidently. With that investment, we can be operational within 3 months and start generating revenue immediately. Our parents exchanged glances, and my father cleared his throat. We've been talking about this already, and we think it's a tremendous opportunity. My mother nodded. We want to support this exciting new chapter for our family. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. That's a substantial investment, I said carefully. How are you thinking of raising that kind of money? My father looked directly at me, his expression, a mixture of excitement and something else I couldn't quite read. We're considering selling the store. The words hit me like a physical blow. Selling the store? Our family legacy. You can't be serious. Franklin, my mother, said soothingly. Businesses evolve. Sometimes we need to let go of the past to embrace the future. The hardware store has served its purpose, Travis added, but retail is dying. This is our chance to be part of something bigger, something with unlimited growth potential. I looked from face to face, unable to process what I was hearing. The store isn't just profitable, it's our identity in this community. We can't just throw that away on a startup idea with no proven track record. We're not throwing it away, Travis said, his tone condescending. We're investing in the future. Dad and Mom agree it's time for the Thompson family to evolve. I spent the next 2 weeks trying to save our legacy. I researched Travis's business model and found critical flaws in his market analysis. I consulted with Carl Winters, our family accountant for 20 years, who confirmed my concerns about the risky investment. I created an alternative proposal, take out a small business loan against the store's equity that could provide Travis with startup capital while preserving our family business. I even offered to reduce my salary to help fund his venture. My parents listened politely, but dismissed my concerns. You're afraid of change, my father said during our final discussion. Travis has studied business. He understands the modern economy in ways we don't. Despite my objections, they listed the store for sale. A regional hardware chain looking to expand snapped it up within weeks, offering $340,000, about $50,000 below market value. My parents accepted immediately, eager to provide Travis with his funding. When I asked about my share, having worked at below-market salary for years while investing my life in the business, my parents seemed surprised. We thought you'd want to be part of Travis's new company, my mother said. But if you're not interested, we can give you $30,000 to start something new. The betrayal was complete. Travis received $120,000 for his untested idea. My parents kept the rest for retirement and future investments, while I received a fraction of what the business was worth, despite my years of dedication. On our final day, I walked through the empty store after the new owners had taken inventory. Every shelf, every corner held memories. I remembered my grandfather teaching me how to use a cash register, my father showing me how to cut glass, and countless conversations with loyal customers who had become friends. When I turned the key in the lock for the last time, something broke inside me. The store hadn't just been a business. It had been my identity, my connection to my family's past, and what I thought would be my future. I drove to my small apartment in silence, tears streaming down my face. That night, I lay awake, cycling through shock, grief, and anger. By morning, a new emotion had taken root: determination. If my family could discard generations of hard work for my brother's pipe dream, I would build something new, something entirely mine, and I would do it without their help or approval. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. I withdrew from family gatherings, unable to bear my parents' excited updates about Travis's progress or their subtle suggestions that I should join his company. Meanwhile, I worked through my depression by focusing on a new plan. Our town had several building supply stores, including the chain that bought our hardware store, but none catered specifically to professional contractors. With my knowledge of the business and my relationships with suppliers and local builders, I saw an opportunity. With my $30,000 payout and a small personal loan, I leased a warehouse space on the industrial edge of town. Thompson Contractor Supply was born focusing exclusively on professional-grade tools, bulk materials, and specialized items that other stores didn't carry. The pain of betrayal never fully disappeared, but it transformed into fuel for my determination. Every time I doubted myself, I remembered the look on my parents' faces when they chose my brother's untested idea over our family legacy, and I worked harder. The first 6 months of Thompson Contractor Supply were a lesson in persistence. I leased a dingy warehouse with a leaking roof and concrete floors worn smooth by decades of use. With limited capital, I had to be strategic about inventory, focusing on essential items with good margins that I knew local contractors needed regularly. I worked alone, arriving at 5:00 a.m. to handle paperwork and inventory opening at 6:30 for early bird contractors, and often staying until 9:00 p.m. to restock and prepare for the next day. My apartment became little more than a place to shower and sleep during those early months. My first major break came when Mike Dawson, who ran the largest residential construction company in the county, took a chance on my fledgling business. He had been a loyal customer at our family store and was disappointed by the changes the new corporate owners had implemented. "They don't understand what contractors need," Mike complained during his first visit to my warehouse. "Their staff can't tell the difference between framing lumber and finishing lumber." I offered Mike personalized service, dedicated inventory for his projects, and early morning pickup options that saved his crews valuable time. Soon, his entire team was shopping exclusively at Thompson Contractor Supply. Word spread quickly in the tight-knit contractor community. By month 4, I had enough regular business to hire my first employee, Jack Peterson, a former Thompson hardware employee who had quit rather than work for the corporate chain. Jack brought with him detailed knowledge of our old inventory systems and several key customer relationships. Together, we expanded our product lines based on direct feedback from our growing customer base. I reinvested every dollar of profit back into the business, gradually transforming the warehouse into a functional, if utilitarian, supply center. We weren't pretty, but contractors didn't care about appearances. They wanted quality products, expert advice, and efficient service, all of which we delivered consistently. At the end of our 6th month, we celebrated our first profitable period with a small pizza party after closing. As Jack and I sat on upturned buckets eating pepperoni pizza, I felt a sense of accomplishment I hadn't experienced since long before losing the family store. To Thompson Contractor Supply, Jack said, raising his soda can. Built from scratch by someone who actually knows what the hell he's doing. I laughed and tapped my can against his. To new beginnings. While my business was finding its footing, I heard through town gossip that Travis's startup was struggling. Development costs had exceeded his initial budget, and the app launch had been delayed multiple times. At family gatherings, which I attended sparingly and briefly, Travis spoke less about his business and deflected questions with vague assurances about development phases and investor interest. My parents similarly avoided detailed discussions about their investment, though I noticed a new tension in their interactions. My mother, always careful with money, seemed particularly stressed, checking prices more carefully at the grocery store and mentioning cutting back on their annual vacation plans. I maintained my distance, focusing instead on growing my business. After our first year, we moved to a larger location closer to town, added a small showroom for specialty items, and hired 3 more employees. I implemented a customer loyalty program specifically for contractors that tracked their purchases and offered volume discounts. By the 18-month mark, Thompson Contractor Supply had become the go-to destination for serious builders in our county and 2 neighboring ones. We expanded into tool repair services, bulk material delivery, and special order management for custom projects. Our reputation grew for expertise and reliability, exactly the qualities that had made our family hardware store successful for generations. I took pride in building something new while honoring the business principles my grandfather and father had taught me, even if they couldn't see it. Then came the day that tested everything I had rebuilt. I was reviewing supplier contracts in my small office when Denise, our front desk manager, knocked on my door. "Your parents are here," she said, her expression concerned. "They're asking to speak with you." My heart raced as I walked to the showroom. My parents stood awkwardly near the entrance, looking simultaneously out of place and entitled. My father had lost weight, and my mother's hair seemed grayer than I remembered. "Franklin," my father began, attempting a confident tone that didn't quite succeed. "Your business looks impressive." "Thank you," I replied coolly. "What can I do for you today?" My mother stepped forward. "We need to talk privately, dear." Family business. I led them to my office, a modest space with a desk cluttered with paperwork and sample catalogs. They sat in the visitor chairs while I took my seat behind the desk, a physical representation of the new dynamic between us. "Travis's business has failed," my father announced without preamble. "The money is gone." Though I had suspected this outcome, hearing it confirmed brought no satisfaction. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, meaning it despite everything. "We've been having some financial difficulties," my mother added, her voice tight. The rest of the store money was tied up in investments that haven't performed well. A heavy silence filled the room as I waited for them to continue, suspecting there was more to this visit than just an update on their circumstances. "We've been thinking," my father finally said, leaning forward, "that we should join forces. Your business is doing well, and with our experience we could make it even better. A family business again." The audacity was breathtaking. After dismissing my concerns, selling our legacy, and investing everything in my brother's failed venture, they now expected to walk into my hard-built company as partners. "We could help with administration," my mother added quickly. "I could take over the books, and your father could manage supplier relations. Travis could even help with creating a better online presence once he returns." "Returns?" I asked. "He's taking some time away," my father said vaguely, "to regroup." Before I could respond, the door opened, and Travis himself walked in as if on cue. He looked terrible, with dark circles under his eyes and a defeated posture I had never seen in my confident brother. "Franklin," he said, with a weak smile, Good to see you. Something inside me snapped. The control I had maintained cracked under the weight of their presumption. Let me understand this, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You sold our family store against my advice. You gave Travis $120, 0,000, for a business that has now failed completely. You're facing financial problems because of these decisions. And now, you want to walk into the company I built from nothing and take over key positions. Not take over, my mother protested. Join as family. We're all Thompsons. That meant nothing when I begged you not to sell our store, I replied. Family meant nothing when you dismissed my expertise and gave Travis 4 times what you gave me of the business value. That's not fair, Travis interjected. My business had potential. It wasn't my fault the market shifted. I turned to him. I identified the flaws in your business plan from the beginning. I warned everyone this would happen. Nobody listened. So, you're just going to abandon us? My father demanded, his face reddening. After everything we did for you, the irony was too much. I stood up, steadying myself against the desk. I think it's time for you to leave. All of you. Franklin, my mother began, tears forming in her eyes. I'm not abandoning anyone, I interrupted. You made your choice 2 years ago. I've made mine since then. Thompson Contractor Supply is my company built without your help or support. When they refused to leave, I called Jack to escort them out. As they were leaving, Travis turned back, his face twisted with resentment. You always were selfish, Franklin. Always looking out for number one. I watched through my office window as they got into their 10-year-old car, a downgrade from the comfortable SUV they once drove. Despite everything, seeing their diminished circumstances brought me no joy, only a complicated sadness for what could have been. That evening I discovered they had approached 2 of my employees and 1 major supplier, suggesting they would soon have management roles in the company. Their presumption knew no bounds. I spent hours making calls, reassuring my team and business partners that no ownership or management changes were planned. As I finally drove home that night, I realized I had crossed a threshold. For the first time since losing the store, I felt completely free of my need for my family's approval or understanding. I had built something valuable entirely on my own terms, and I was prepared to protect it, even from those who should have been my strongest supporters. The months following my parents' unexpected visit were quiet on the family front. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Travis had taken a mid-level position with a marketing firm in Philadelphia, moving away from our hometown for the first time in his adult life. My parents had downsized to a small apartment in the neighboring town, a significant step down from the comfortable home where I grew up. Meanwhile, Thompson Contractor Supply continued to thrive. Within 2 years of our founding, we expanded to a second location in the next county. Our team grew to 20 employees, including several specialists in commercial building supplies, custom millwork, and industrial equipment rental. I remained focused on the principles that had made our family store successful for generations, combined with modern business practices. Know your products better than anyone, treat your employees like family, and always put customer relationships first. The difference was that now these were my principles, tested through adversity and proven through success. Early one Tuesday morning, my assistant placed a letter on my desk with the day's mail. I recognized my father's handwriting immediately, the same neat script that had labeled bins and shelves in our hardware store for decades. For a moment, I considered returning it unopened, but curiosity won out. Dear Franklin, it began, I'm writing this letter without your mother's knowledge. She remains convinced we were right to sell the store and invest in Travis's business, despite everything that's happened. I've come to see things differently. The letter continued with an account of their financial struggles since Travis's business collapsed, acknowledging the painful consequences of their decision. My father admitted that pride had prevented him from seeing the value of my practical experience, and that he had been blinded by Travis's academic credentials and confident promises. I miss the store every day, he wrote. I miss the customers, the community, and most of all, working alongside you. I was wrong, son, and I'm sorry. The letter ended with a request to meet for coffee, just the two of us. No business proposals, no expectations, just a chance to talk. I carried that letter in my pocket for 3 days before finally calling the number he'd included. We arranged to meet at a diner halfway between our town's neutral territory for what would surely be a difficult conversation. My father looked older than his 63 years when he slid into the booth across from me. The confident man who had taught me to cut a perfect miter joint and negotiate with tough suppliers seemed diminished somehow. "Thank you for coming," he said simply. Over eggs and coffee, he shared the full story of what had happened after Travis's business failed. Their investments made on Travis's recommendations had performed poorly. Medical bills from my mother's brief hospitalization last year had depleted their remaining savings. They were getting by on Social Security and a part-time job my father had taken at a big box garden center. "Your mother still doesn't want to admit how badly we mishandled everything," he said, stirring his coffee absently. "She thinks it would have worked if Travis had just had more time or more money." "And what do you think?" I asked. He met my eyes directly for the first time. "I think we betrayed you and destroyed something precious that took generations to build. I think we got dazzled by big promises and forgot the value of what we already had." His raw honesty disarmed me. The anger I had carried for so long didn't disappear, but it shifted somehow, making room for something else. Not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps understanding. "I don't expect you to forgive us," my father continued. "Certainly not right away. I just wanted you to know that I recognize what we did, and I'm sorry for my part in it." After that initial meeting, we established a cautious new relationship. I offered them limited financial support, enough to ease their most pressing concerns, but with clear boundaries. I made it explicitly clear that there would never be a place for them in my business, but I was open to rebuilding our personal relationship slowly. My mother initially refused my help, her pride still intact, despite their circumstances. Eventually, necessity overcame pride, and she accepted, though our interactions remained strained. Travis and I exchanged occasional text messages, maintaining minimal contact without any pretense of closeness. Last Thanksgiving, 2 years after their attempt to join my company, I invited my parents to dinner at my home. The conversation was sometimes awkward, old hurts still tender beneath the surface politeness, but it was a start. As they were leaving, my father paused at the door. "Your grandfather would be proud of what you've built," he said quietly. Different from the hardware store, but with the same heart. The Thompson legacy continues, just not the way any of us expected. Those words meant more than he could know. The journey from betrayal to rebuilding taught me lessons I never expected to learn. I discovered that self-reliance isn't just about financial independence, but about trusting your own judgment even when those closest to you doubt your path. I learned that boundaries are necessary, even perhaps especially with family. Most importantly, I found that success built on your own terms is the most satisfying response to betrayal. Today, Thompson Contractor Supply serves contractors throughout the state. We've expanded to 4 locations with plans for 2 more in the coming year. I've created a company culture that values practical knowledge and customer relationships above all else, honoring the best parts of my family's business tradition while creating something uniquely mine. My relationship with my parents remains complicated. We'll never return to the easy trust we once shared, but we're finding a new way forward, one honest conversation at a time. Travis occasionally calls from Philadelphia. Our interactions civil but distant. Some wounds heal, but leave permanent scars. I've learned that letting go of resentment doesn't mean forgetting the lessons of betrayal. It means carrying those lessons forward while refusing to let bitterness define your future. It means recognizing that sometimes the legacy you build yourself matters more than the one you hope to inherit. What about you? Have you ever had to rebuild after a family betrayal? How did you handle setting boundaries while maintaining relationships? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's possible to create success even after losing everything. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most important foundation you build is the one under your own feet.